Asisyon Kaya kita sinahot na Nagmamalawan Mga kwentustikan Potan Martorong hiningong muna sinangan niya Dosang mga damdupag Ugini na kontan Tinahay Nasasan dihagat Timbas klorong hiningong muna sinangan Ihaling niya ahay
Nasasan dihagat
Laun niya upagingat sini sinangan niya
All right. Hafade todos hamzo. Buenas. Este un otro episode Fanatsu. Guay host Midzu Tatlo. This is another episode of Fanatsu. I am the host, Michael Lujan Bavakwa, Hafade todos hamzo. And here on Fanatsu, we bring all sorts of things to you. We bring conversations with activists. We bring Finut Chamoru conversations. We bring the stories of our elders. You know, we talk about music, and I'm also thankful that we talk about art, and we talk about the power of art, the things that we can do in terms of expressing ourselves for art, but also the way that we can use art to reach others, talk to others, create conversations around issues that are important to us. And so it is with that in mind that I am so thankful to be joining, to have here with me, Jerrold Dwayne Castro. Hafade. Jerrold, Hafade.
Buenas, Hafade. Thank you for having me.
And so we're going to be talking about his work, in particular, his show, the Inafa'maolek to Make Good, his series there. But, you know, Jerrold has a lot of wonderful stuff, including classes that he does in the community. He's also teaching at the University of Guam. And so with his work, we can really see sort of the impact of colonization, sort of the way that contemporary Chamorros are processing, dealing with that colonization, and also how we can empower ourselves too in terms of dealing with that history. And so, you know, Jerrold, I'm so glad that you joined me here today. Let's start off, before we get into showing some of your artwork to everybody, give us a sense of your background. Hafi familiamo, you know, where did you grow up? Like, what brought you to art?
Oh, buenas. Saludos mas for having me again. Guausi Jerrold Dwayne Castro. I am a Chamorro artist born and raised here on the island of Guam. You know, I lived here my entire childhood, right? And then I went off island, right? I went off island to pursue my education and then joined the military. I was in infantry here at the Guam Army National Guard. I transferred over to the Washington Army National Guard while going to school, got an ROTC scholarship, and then was commissioned as a signal officer in the United States Army. And I pursued pretty much that entire career, and just recently retired from the military as a lieutenant colonel, and making my way back home so I can teach here and give back to the community that raised me. My family, I'm a Castro, and if you know the Castro name and how it relates to art, we are all artists. Like, there are so many of us that have big names here on the island and pursued higher education in art and have pursued careers in the arts, from graphics design to just painting to doing whatever they want to do. And I've been influenced by many of these artists in my family from a very, very young age. As far as I can remember, my earliest memory was when I was in my grandparents' home in Barragata and sitting down. I don't even remember how old I was. I was really, really young. And I remember my uncles, it was a big party going around, and my uncles were like, "Hey, you're drawing." And then they came over and they showed me how to draw a monster truck and showed me how to draw a jet plane. And to this day, I can still draw those two things in that style, in that very accurate way. But yeah, I pursued my education further while I was in the military in hopes that I can teach here at the University of Guam. I have a master's in fine arts in painting and drawing, and I have a interdisciplinary visual arts background. My undergrad degree is from the University of Washington in Seattle, and my master's is from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. So yeah, just a little bit about myself, and there you go.
Hey, Sidus Masi. Sidus Masi. And so it is interesting because yeah, once people hear that you're a Castro, they always ask, are you related to Rick or Ron or Jerrold? Which Castro are you? Are you one of the artistic Castros, or uh are you one of the non-artistic Castros? And so, but it is wonderful to see that because we also, there's Chamorro families that are known for certain things, right? There's certain families like the Franquez family, the Laguatnia family, which are musical families. There's the Castro family, which is, artistic. And then in the past, you had families which were great at certain types of fishing, great at farming certain types of things, great at hunting and catching certain things. And so it's good to see that these family traditions and skills continue to persist even as new media comes into the island, new ways of expressing ourselves. And so can you just sort of, because for a lot of Chamorros, there's not a lot of younger Chamorros, for example, they find that their families aren't necessarily supportive of them going into art, right? Sort of there's a stronger emphasis on sort of, why don't you become a doctor? Why don't you become an accountant? Why don't you become this or that, a teacher, right? And so it's not seen as something that's sustainable. And so as somebody who went off and got a higher degree, right, an MFA in art, what would you say to younger people? Because for me, you don't have to convince me. If my oldest child was like, I want to be an accountant, I would be like, you get out of this house right now. I'm disowning you if you become an accountant. No. You be an artist, a writer, you do something that's interesting. You don't, but so for a lot of families don't have that perspective. So what would you say to sort of younger people who are very interested in art, who would like to pursue something where they can support themselves at least partially or completely with art?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a big believer in follow your passions. I think that's what has made me successful, both as an artist and a military officer. A passion goes a long way. So if you find that your child has passion, or you are the child that has the passion, you can take it as far as the sky. Even beyond that, right? The sky is not the limit. You can go further beyond the horizon, beyond the borders, and pursue your passions in any which way you want. You have to be practical though about it. I'm very practical, and I think that's just the way I grew up. And although we have a lot of artists in our family, we have a lot of other practical careers, career-minded people in my family. My wife, for instance, is a civil engineer, right? So she pursued her education in civil engineering, and practiced that for a little bit. And then myself, right? My practical career was the military, and it never stopped me from pursuing art or my education in art. I think that it doesn't matter exactly what you do. If you have the bug that makes you want to create, you should feed it. You should enable it. You never know, it might become some beautiful babang or something. You need to always nurture that side of you.
Again, thank you for that perspective. I think that's so important because there's always this emphasis, and I know it comes from sort of the changing world, right, where working, making money is essential for life, right, to sustain and support. But people forget that just because this is your job, your career, it doesn't mean that you can't find other ways to express yourself, right? And so I like the perspective that you put there, that is, if you have a career, but you also love art, don't give up art. Don't stop making art.
Yeah. We as anybody who is a creative or aspires to be an artist, they get those roadblocks. Life happens, right? You have to survive. There's nothing wrong with surviving with your art. I've sold more paintings since I've been back home. On purpose, I wasn't selling because I didn't want to sell while I was in my military career. I decided to give away most of my paintings. But since I've retired, that has become, a way to bring an income. And I'm really surprised that thankfully the people are buying my work, and there are so many people out there who have different tastes, and no matter what type of work that you create will likely sell. Like you just got to find the audience, and what's great is that there are so many platforms out there that can spread your work and showcase your work. It doesn't have to be physical; it could be virtual, social media, etc. But yeah, there's so many avenues for you to have a career in the arts. It doesn't have to be a fine artist. You can be an entrepreneur like yourself, right? Illustrating books or flashcards and all these different wonderful things that showcase your work and your family's work. I think that's a great way. It's a great outlet to try to bring that creative side into your daily life and your daily routine.
Hungen, definitely. And so let's talk about let me bring up your website real fast so that people can see. And then I want to talk about your Inafa'maolek series, right? And so give me 1 second and go and
Sure.
So here we go, JerroldDwayneCastro.com, and I'll put a link in the comments for those watching so they can check it out. And so when you go there, you have his CV statement about, as well as a wonderful portfolio. And so let's check out the portfolio here. And let's talk about this series, the Inafa'maolek to Make Good, an exploratory series looking at cultural identity and colonial influences on the Chamorro culture. And man, Besangani, these are powerful pieces. These are powerful pieces in the way that they bring so much, even if they're very stripped down in one way, right? There's no flashy backgrounds. There's detail on the figures, but there's detail in the simple ways that the figures are taken apart, right? It's beautiful. And so, please put for what Sangani Hamnai put Esti. Tell us about this series. What brought you to this?
Sure. Yeah. So this was actually my thesis series for my MFA. It started off as an idea. It wasn't the first idea I wanted to go with. I wanted to do something. Originally, I pitched 3 different ideas. One of them was my sea life series that was just really fish portraits or sea life portraits, just literally just the heads of fish or the sea life animals. That was one that I wanted to do. It was a continuation of the stuff that I put on pause for my education. I wanted to finish that series. The other one was I wanted to go completely abstract with inspiration from I'm giving all my secrets right now, but anybody can take it. It's not really mine to hold and share or keep. But I wanted to go completely abstract and go and be influenced by coral. Like just the sea has always been something that has been part of me, as part of our culture. I knew it's something that I wanted to do. And then the last one was the Inafa'maolek series, which I didn't have a name for it. I just knew it was something figurative that looked at colonial influences on the Chamorro culture. And when I fleshed out all the ideas, this was probably the most, the most complicated one to pursue. And in higher education, they kind of push you towards the most complex concepts and the harder, more challenging series to create. And naturally, figurative work is hard in itself. It's hard. It's really hard to paint the figure. It's hard to draw the figure, hard to paint it, and make it come off as in some sort of realistic manner. So the idea of Inafa'maolek to Make Good is that it is an exploratory journey. It's what it was for me. I took 2 years and I did the research, looking at our history, looking at, really as much history as I can gather from different books and different authors that I can get my hands on. Being off island, it was quite difficult. I wish I was on island so I can go to the mark and look at some of the, some important documents that they have here. But I end up just, I had a short visit back home to baptize my my third child, and I took the opportunity then to kind of look and gather as much books that would help me create this series. And it was really, really difficult for me to read our history and see how much was taken from us. Just to be blunt, right? Taken from us from pre-colonial days to now, and it continues to impact us for hundreds of years. And this is the result, is what we have here, a society that's here right now, for good or for worse, right? We're still here. I want to say that. When I started off, if you look at the beginning parts, there's a lot of, like, what you're looking at right now are the, like, almost the last two. I think I had two more pieces to finish off the series before I published this website. But if in the beginning, you can see like how upset and brooding the emotion that I was feeling as I researched this work and started putting my ideas together. Each and every one of these pieces has a specific message I wanted to explain. And hey, man, in the beginning, it was kind of like anger and sadness, and like there's a lot of like really, really difficult feelings that I had to go through just to kind of create that work. And it was such a slow process just to finish it, only because of those feelings. And what I found was, as I progressed through the history, I come to realize a few things. One of them is that we are still here. We are so resilient as a people, as a society, as culture. We are still here. We continue to thrive. We're proud people, and we've expanded beyond the borders of Guam and the Marianas, right? And we've our diaspora out there. I was part of the diaspora for quite a while, just pursuing my military career. So that there's all that emotion that we're trying to work up, and when in the end I found that we are a strong, resilient people, and we should be proud of that part of our heritage. As much as we want to know or want to say the bad things about our history, we should also express the goodness that have come out of it. It has to be some sort of balance, and that's what I kind of took away from that. And we can talk about individual pieces if you want. Most of them come off like you see Zulang right there is that first one, top one on the left. That's I actually, so to kind of put it all out there, I'm not fluent in the Chamorro language, which is a deficiency that I strive to correct. And I admire you, Miguel, because you said many times before that you grew up not speaking Chamorro, and you kind of became fluent with the language later in life, which is very inspiring to a lot of people. And this is, so the reason why I bring that up is because I had to go through the Chamorro dictionary, right, and look at the language, and that was part of my research. And Zulang kind of stuck out on me, like destroyed, broken, right? So when how do I relate that to our culture? There is a point that we break at, right? There's a point where there's a sense of crumbling in our culture, and we've seen that before. You hear a lot of, growing up, you hear there's no pure-blooded Chamorro or anything like that, right? You kind of grew up that way, and I wanted to kind of visualize that for people, what I understood. Me not knowing the Chamorro language was a way of us destroying ourselves and our culture. Like the Chamorro language, our language itself is the heart of the culture. And when you see that, there's another piece there that I think is worthy to show is Matotsugu Esti Parecida. It's the one with the coconut. Don't just the middle one on the right. just above the snakes, the middle one on the right. That one right there is another one that's kind of inspired by the Chamorro language. You notice that the figure doesn't have a mouth, and if you see what he's holding the coconut, the yearling coconut, pulling out the heart of the coconut. And when you pull the heart out of the coconut, that tree dies, or that it doesn't grow anymore. It's no longer able to grow into a tree. And that's just kind of like me saying we do that to ourselves when we don't pass down our language. We disappear, and it's like pulling the heart out of ourselves. And knowing that the needs is very important to our culture. That's one of the pieces that I think kind of inspired. I was inspired by the idea that I cannot speak the Chamorro language. I do my best, right? I know the words that I grew up with, and then the very little amount that I research and I try to pass down to my children. So I'm trying to do my part, but this is one of the pieces that I think really helped for me to visualize my deficiency in my cultural deficiency, right? As a Chamorro, the inability to speak.
It's haunting, I think because what you've described there in talking about the pieces, right? Because when you see them, each of them is struggling in a different way, right? Or each of them is being attacked, penetrated by something, right? Mm-hmm. But then the pieces, the sort of the figures that don't have mouths, and this is the power of art, right? Is that for so many Chamorros, they're in the position where they say, I don't know my language. Mm-hmm. It wasn't taught to me, and so you taking away the mouth of a figure is one of the ways of using art to give people the ability to sort of get something out of themselves, right? That trauma of like, I say I'm Chamorro, but how come I don't speak Chamorro, right? Right. Most people in the world, if you say you're something, then you can speak a language, right? Connected to that. How come we can't? But you taking the mouth away, that's why I think, for a lot of people who've seen your work, it connects with them in a way that you could just say, you may feel about it, but this takes it to a whole new level, being able to kind of see these figures struggle with that, right? So this one is particularly impressive, sort of, sort of pulling at the mouth, right? Trying to find the words, trying to find sort of a way to speak when history has not given you the mouth to speak with. Wow.
Exactly.
Profound.
Yeah, you get it. Like this one, Fanakiwa, is one of one of my earlier pieces, and it was an idea that has two meanings. Like you said it right then there. I think you're going in the right direction in terms of what the meaning is. One is the inability to speak our language. That's one aspect. The other aspect is true representation in the federal side. Like we don't have a congressman that votes that truly represents us in Congress. So that was another piece for this particular one. I thought it was important that needed to come out, that this needed to be shown, and this needed to be said. That message needed to be said to whoever sees it. So when they look at this, it is a struggle, to move past our colonial status. There's so much that has been so many obstacles have been put in the way for us to move forward. One of them too is to change the language. The other one is to put the political system in a way where you are no longer the majority, you become the minority, and you are not able to speak unless you pass a certain set of criteria. And that's why this particular piece, silence, needed to be said.
Oh, thank you. If you are watching, put favor, and I see some of you watching. Hafade, Senora Lillian, Hafade Tisha, Hafade Desiree. These are all Fanatsu patrons. Remember that if you like what Fanatsu does, if you want to sort of keep us growing, remember, sign up as a patron on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Fanatsu. And there's Dana too, another sort of patron and frequent follower and watcher of Fanatsu. And so por favor, ask questions. We have a few that have come in so far, and we'll get to them in the second half of our conversation, the second half of the hour. But there's actually one piece that I wanted you to talk a little bit more about, sure. And so it's and I know it's one that you worked on a few times.
Yeah. Yes.
And so so tell us more about this one, because you had figures that were disintegrating, figures that were being chopped up, figures that were being strangled and covered, right? Mm-hmm. Figures that were sort of, this is one where the figure is melting. And so tell us about this one.
So this is Managuana, which is, means watered down, right? And the idea is, I kind of mentioned it before, that we're told in an earlier time, there's no pure-blooded Chamoru, right? So everything about us has been watered down from our language, from our attitudes, from our blood, right? They say that you're not going to be a full-blooded Chamoru. And I've come to realize that is not the case. You even have one drop of blood that you're Chamoru, and you claim you're Chamoru. There's no half Chamoru. There's no, quarter Chamoru. You're Chamoru. Doesn't matter how much you have in you. And this was that was the idea behind this piece, is that our culture has been somewhat watered down because of the colonial influences that have been placed on us, in a way where the system, the ideas are everything has kind of melted away. Everything has been pushed to the side, or has been removed from us in some manner, and we are told that we are this or that, right? We're not what we think we are. This had to be said. This is a message that needed to be said, that although you may think we're watered down, we're still strong and resilient. We're still there, holding our fist up and trying to fight whatever you throw at us, whatever we're experiencing. That we're still here. We're still going to stand here straight and strong with two fists up. So that was the message behind this particular piece. Now, what you have right here is an in progress shot. The final piece, I promise you, looks a lot better than this. I did go different. I went very textural with this one. So the background, although it looks kind of patchy in this one, in the end, there was a lot of texture in the background. It kind of mimicked the textural quality you see with the drips and all that. I did show this in a very premature state during my Inafa'maolek show. And it was, I realized that it wasn't as convincing in terms of the message I wanted to state. So I made the changes. This was kind of like that second part where I was starting to make the changes. I wish I had a better picture to show you.
Oh, and in some way, the unfinished state, though, it still highlights your intent, your meaning, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think people are still drawn to it, even in this state, because it yeah. But we have Senora Florence Cruz. She says she appreciates your beautiful study of the human body in your work. Sidus Masi, Senora Florence.
Thank you so much.
And then
the figure, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. The figure is kind of what I'm known for, just because of this particular series. I didn't expect that I would do a figurative series quite like this, and that required a lot of training. I had to study anatomy. I had to take a anatomy for artists class that really focused on the bony structures and the flesh tones and the flesh and the muscular structures and all that to try to get that looking accurate. And hopefully you can see a likeness, because this whole entire body of work is a self-portrait of me, and I use myself as the figure. But I'm probably not as muscular as that right now since I retired from the military. But yeah, this is I appreciate the comment. Thank you. It really validates all the training I've done.
We have more comments coming in. We've got more comments coming in. Guam T says excellent piece and loves the idea of the watered down, right? And then we have Cindy Dueña saying, I believe that as Sainas, we have the responsibility to tell those stories and remind our children, grandchildren, and now great-grandchildren that we are of a humble, righteous birth. Be proud of who you are. I'm grateful that our grandkids have embraced their culture fully and yearn to learn more. Sidzus Masi for sharing your talents. Siempre Sidzus habendi sihaw.
Sidzus Masi,
Cindy, puri bonito na sinangan mo. And so, yeah, how does it feel, Jerrold? Because I really think that that your work reaches people in a way that sort of like, because, so for example, you're familiar with the work of like David Sablon, right? David Lujan Sablon.
Yes.
Sort of he was one of the first people to do sort of the detailed sort of scenes of Chamorro life, right?
Yes. I love watching his work all over the island. It was nice to see him.
Oh, Hungan. And so, but his work is part of sort of the phase in which you are really just trying to show ancient Chamorros as being this proud, beautiful people, right? And that's important because when we think about like, at least like my grandparents growing up, or even my mom growing up, there wasn't a lot of pride, or it was a different type of pride, like proud of their culture, proud of being Chamorro, but not feeling like they could share that pride with others, right? Feeling embarrassed sometimes of being from a small place, a small people, right? And so, so that phase is important. But what your work does, though, is it brings out the reality of Chamorros today too, right? Which is that now we feel that we have these connections to our past, but we also have to deal with all the ways, the trauma that we're disconnected still, or feeling that now that we realize what was valuable and we didn't know it, or it was taken from us, now we have to deal with the loss of that.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Growing up, dating myself a little bit. Growing up in the 90s, at that time, high school, and as I come into age, kind of thing, the social structure was if you're too Chamorro, that's a bad thing, or you kind of get pegged into a negative category. So you kind of have to walk that line of being Chamorro. You're proud of your Chamorro, but you don't want to be too much, which is sad. Which was a very sad way to kind of grow up and come to realize. But what was helpful is that I did leave the island. I left because my wife wanted to pursue her education, so I followed her, and I just end up coming out on the good end on that side. But when I did leave the island, I found the uniqueness of just my ethnicity was a way for people to connect with other people and to share our stories. And they were very fascinated by this, island boy who is out there in the big world trying to do his thing. And even in my military career, that kind of helped me stand out. There are a lot of Chamorro, or even people from the Marianas and Guam, and just even if they're not Chamorro, they're just from this area that we kind of like hang out together. And it's not a very big community, but there's a lot of us. When we meet each other, we kind of support each other. But when we're off but doing ourselves, we kind of like represent our community, and we become. There's another category, which is a really positive thing, that people from Guam, people from Marianas, they're hardworking, they're good in the military. They're just that the way that our upbringing helps us to become very good at soldiering. In my case, I was in the Army. But that's just one aspect, right? Like you become prouder when you go off and trying to pursue your life. So there's a lot of the diaspora members that are out there representing and being really good stewards of our culture and showcasing it and doing so many good work for us, giving us that positive representation. And that's been happening since the entire time I've been away. And which is sad because, we're starting to see that now. It was sad back then, but now there's that revitalization of our culture. We're at a good time where people are proud to be Chamorro, and that they want to define what Chamorro is, and what this culture is. It's a very inclusive culture, and so that's what works so great about living here on the island for even other ethnicities. But that's I absolutely love this time of our lives, to see that the young kids are out there and celebrating their ethnicity. They're celebrating our culture for what it is. And hopefully that that they're learning. They're learning from our history. It's out there. The information now is so prevalent. We can find information that's reliable, and be able to. We have all that access to it. So hopefully, as they become as these young kids grow up, they can help move us past some of our political roadblocks, right? To move us past the colonial aspects, and no longer have these somewhat colonial, these no kidding, colonial influences on our culture. I think I wanted to say those two things, right? Like you move beyond the borders, you experience a life out there, you become even more fascinated with who you are, in terms of your cultural identity. There was another thing I wanted to say, but I kind of forgot because I got lost in my thoughts there.
Well, don't worry. We can always come back to it. But I did want to. So let's talk about. Your experience, from Guam, but also in the diaspora, coming back home, and sort of. And I wanted to share with everyone, sort of, you've been part of different shows. You had your own show,
Mm-hmm.
and so I wanted to kind of talk about that. Let's, in fact, real quick, let's watch this from KOAM. Sort of for the grand opening of your show, the Inafa'maolek show.
Castro was briefly on Guam for the grand opening of his first solo art show, entitled Inafa'maolek, To Make Good, is a journey to understand cultural identity and reflects upon the impact of centuries of colonial influences on the Chamorro culture. For Castro, art is in his blood.
I grew up surrounded by art. A lot of family members are artists, graphic artists, fine artists, teachers. So I've always been exposed to art, and it's always been around me, and so I just naturally grew up wanting to do it.
Throughout his years at George Washington High School, Castro would provide artwork for yearbooks and even wall murals. After graduating, he knew he wanted to expand on his passion and work on his craftsmanship. Castro, who holds a Master's of Fine Arts degree in painting from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco and a Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Visual Arts from the University of Washington in Seattle, said when putting together his collection, he wanted to explore his culture.
When I left the island, I knew that I had something special in my culture. There are not too many Chamorros, walking around the earth. So going to University of Washington, being in the military, and being deployed in different environments, I just noticed that our Chamorro culture is very unique. And it's something that needs to be preserved and expanded upon. So I figured the best way for me to showcase that is to do my entire thesis project on art culture.
Roughly 19 pieces are on display at the Castro Art Gallery, which is located on the second floor of the Tumon Sands Plaza. They're part of his thesis project that started back in 2015 and is an exploratory journey of trying to figure out his culture and understanding his cultural identity.
There's a lot of emotion that goes into the work because as I start studying the history and understanding all the different things that have happened, personally, just for me, and in my understanding, it becomes a bunch of sad, angry, proud feelings that I think that help to define who I am and my cultural identity.
Inafa'maolek to Make Good runs from now till May 17th. For more information on Castro and his work, you can visit.
And so what did it feel like, sort of having a coming back home and then having a show like that? And so it's no longer the Castro Gallery. Now there's the Lee Regis Gallery. And so, but yeah, so talk to us about that experience of coming home and sharing your work, and what was the response from the community?
Yeah, so man, it was like a dream. So I was still in the military when I showed this work, right? I got it had to be shown. I had the opportunity. I was encouraged by my professors to go and pursue some of the big name galleries back in the States to try to show this there. They thought it was powerful enough for me to have a show to exhibit it somewhere in the States. But the opportunity arose when right after I was conferred with my MFA, I got orders to go to Korea. Just conveniently orders to go to Korea. And I was supposed to bring my family, but the military has its way of kind of like putting you through the ringer. So my family couldn't go. Just kind of in the last minute couldn't go. So I opted to send them back home, and the military paid for everything to come over, to include my work. So, and that was once our stuff arrived on that, I was like, my Uncle Rick had the gallery at the time. It was just like everything came together, and I felt that this had to be shown on Guam. This work the Chamorro people needed to see this work. Everybody on Guam needed to see this work, whether it's Chamorro or not. It belonged here. It belonged. that was my mentality. I wanted that. I didn't expect to sell any of it. That was not the case. I figured this was purely personal in nature. We got a bunch of me as a reference, kind of like in all these pictures, right? So yeah, I didn't expect to sell any of it, and that wasn't the intention originally. It was just the message needed to be said. But selling it was a plus. Selling most of it was a plus, and I had I don't want to say it in terms of that was success, because success wasn't defined by the fact that most of it sold. Success to me was that I showed it here on Guam, I had my family around me. Bring me to tears already, just because I'm thinking about it. It was such a great experience. I mean, we had the professors here at UOG came to the show, and I had some good reviews from them. It was all positive. It had the media coverage. Friends. Anytime you have friends in the media, it's so nice. So shout out to Joan for hooking me up with that and continually supporting me on my work. And so like I was just blown away by the fact that so many people came out. It was showing along with GAX, so that was like a challenging opportunity to show my work at the same time GAX was showing. But I had so many people reaching out to me, congratulating me, telling me how much they enjoyed seeing my work. It's a hard pill to swallow, right? The message is a hard pill to swallow, but many people said that it was good. It needed to be said, and it was good. It was good that I said it. So yeah, thanks for showing that piece.
Oh, hell yeah, of course. I mean, it's it's just so nice to see. It's just so nice to hear your story, also your philosophy on this, sort of the things that you're tackling with, but also just it's a reminder too that I think for this issue of the diaspora, for example, right? That there's this big ocean between the Marianas and the States. And so for a lot of people, that's like this big division, right? And it can be expensive. Continental or United wants a lot of your salape to get you across that ocean, right?
Right.
But even sort of the experience of going away, but then coming back, going and then coming back, learning and growing from those experiences, whether it's in art, whether it's in terms of a career, whether it's just in terms of your personal experiences of seeing another way that people are living or another place and then coming home, right? But so getting rid of that idea of just, are you from over there? Are you from over here? That fundamentally different, but just get into the idea that there's value coming home. There's value in going away. Hopefully you come back, you may not know when exactly, but hopefully you do come back. But I really loved, and I was reminded about sort of the panel that we were on for the Fenita Manhoban Youth Conference, and sort of what you are saying now, and what Josh Agristrand or Josh Barragata, sort of what he brought up too, about sort of the uniqueness, or just the stories, the ways, the history, the culture, right? That that don't be embarrassed and don't be ashamed of those things. Although Chamorros kind of used to feel that, right? But celebrate it. And other people, there's not this emphasis anymore on everybody's got to give up their culture. Everybody's got to give up their language. Right now, you can celebrate, that somebody comes from a different place, has a different story, that somebody does something differently. And so, I was really struck. I remembered that. And so I wanted to ask for your reflection on that Fenita Manhoban conference, sort of talking to the youth about decolonization, but also about art. And, while you're talking, I'm going to share some video from PBS, who did a story on it.
Yeah. So, man, that was, I was really honored to be asked to join and be one part of the panel, and then two, also to help just to teach, to run a workshop for the kids. The idea of these young kids interested in this political aspiration of moving us beyond the status quo is quite amazing. From the time I left the island back in '98, I came back once in a while, but every so often. But to now, just recently for this conference, to see all those kids out there fully engaged in the content, right? Engaged in the idea of our political status is inspiring. We did something right. Like somebody did something right for these kids to be engaged like that. Melvin and his whole crew did an amazing job putting this together. What an opportunity for them. I think that we can build on this. It goes in line with everything that I've been saying in Inafa'maolek to Make Good series. It is exactly what we feel like. The one piece status quo is one of the pieces that I kind of wanted to kind of show. But yeah, like that's the way we feel. A lot of people feel that way. Oh, they misspelled my name, by the way. That's fine. But yeah, that happens a lot, believe it or not. The idea that this conference was put on and these kids are out there, we can build off of it, and hopefully the next generation can take off from where we left off. And I think it's important for us to know that we have people out there that are working really, really hard behind the scenes to educate our youth, to help them understand at the earliest age that they are powerful, that they have something that we don't have, and that's time. We kind of lost where we have just as much time now, but they have more. And that's the most valuable asset that our youth can bring to the fight, if you will, and to pursue a better situation than where we're at. It's not, it depends on how you look at it. It doesn't have to be bad. It's just what it is, right? That's just the way our society, based off of our history, and all the different chances and coincidences and opportunities that people were trying to pursue in the past. From the individual to the large powers, administering powers, everybody had an agenda, and this is where we are. So how do we chart ourselves? How do we take ownership in our voyage forward? And it's wonderful to see that these kids are engaged, and then to see them, like making the connection with the arts. I absolutely love that. The music, the poetry, the the art, the visual arts, all of it represented was amazing to see, and for them to even show their work at the end and kind of like a finale that last night. What an opportunity for them, and I hope that we continue to build that. We will build on all of this in the future.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, what was it like working with the youth painting and sort of, because so that's what I loved about this that was different, right? Is a lot of times the way that we approach this, right, is you just kind of sit people down and then they listen, right? And like, somebody talks and everybody listens, right? And then you go home. But for this, it was amazing to see, of course, the listening, the absorbing, the learning, but then also the expressing. And not just that you kind of get into a circle and everybody has to share their thoughts, but that sort of people got to write things, paint things, sing things. That was amazing. And so I wanted to hear you worked with the youth who were on the art track. And so share what it was like.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can't take all the credit. Josh was there, and he ran the show, and I was just there to kind of help provide guidance and help clarify some of their ideas if they had some questions, and how can they express themselves more clearly in what they're feeling or the message that they're trying to convey. So I mean, I had a few questions on that. So that was really good. I love working with kids. I'm all about doing the serious work. That's the reason why I want to teach here at the University of Guam as an adjunct. I get that opportunity, but yeah, I've taught kids as a young age of 12 and up. So I have that experience, and I didn't see any difference. These kids kind of knew what they wanted to do, and I was just there to help them bring their idea to fruition. It wasn't very complicated. Most of them, there were some talented kids. And you could see that the message and the clarity in their work, and they're able to pursue that and showcase it. I thought it was a wonderful experience, not just for me and hopefully for them, and to be around professional artists and to get our perspective, and then to help them achieve their vision. It's nice to have that. And if any of the kids are listening, I'm always open to if you have any questions about your work, you need me to help you in any way, just reach out to me, and I'd be happy to provide some more guidance.
And so we've had a few questions about what is next for you. Mm-hmm. So what is your next? So, you've talked about your work in the past. The Inafa'maolek show is sort of the most visible aspect of your work now, but what is your next series, or what are your next plans artistically?
Yeah, sure. So I continue to work, right? I'm doing little bits here and there to kind of showcase. So Dawn Lees Regis has she has the space, right? She has the most legit gallery here in town. And so she puts on shows all the time, and I contribute to that. So whatever shows that she has, I'll likely have 1 or 2 pieces in those. And depending on the theme, right, if it fits what I'm doing, I usually try to help out her gallery space and put some work in there for her so she can get some money if it sells. But I am working on another solo show. It's figurative as well. In a way, it's figurative. It's under the theme of migrations. So you'll be seeing some Sackmen, right, and some Galadi. But the idea for my next one, I'm still trying to flesh it out, is how do we migrate our culture from not just like physical location, right? So there's here in the different islands, how do we migrate across? How do we migrate from our homeland to the diaspora? And how do we migrate back? But also in terms of time, how do we migrate from generation to generation? Well, how do we pass down certain aspects of our cultural strengths to our youth? So I'm still trying to flesh out what the symbolism would look like in that. But that's the kind of the general idea. I'm playing with the sense of time, a sense of place, the aesthetics of our culture. I am looking to sell these works, right? So I want it to be less of a tougher pill to swallow, you know. I want these things to be kind of bright on the contrast to what you see with Inafa'maolek to make good. But it's kind of, to me, it's almost like an evolution of Inafa'maolek to make good. It is the next step. You saw the darker aspects of our history. How do I show the lighter aspects of it? I'm looking, I want to maintain a figurative presence, because I think there's not that many artists out here in our community that one, do the figure well, but two, also just do the figure. So it will be figurative in a way. But yeah, so the migrations theme, I have no idea what I'm going to call it yet, but it's just the next evolution and the lighter side of our culture.
Oh, Biba, I'm imagining, and don't feel the need to take seriously my imagining of your show right now, but given sort of the way that you took the body and then you complicated it, you pixelated it, you cut it up, right? You stretched it, you melted it. I'm imagining, let's see, I'm imagining Chamorro figures being consumed by Olive Garden logos or spam cans, like people drowning or stuck in spam cans. I'm thinking about all of the, what's it called? All the things that a Walmart, Target, sort of, because that was one of the things that I always remember is, you know, Chamorros that moved to the States are like, oh, you don't even have a Target on Guam. You don't even have a Walmart on Guam. And so, but anyways, I look forward to seeing sort of what you can come up with that, just because you're right that I think, and I did also want to, you are offering, I've seen it in the past, life drawing lessons, you and other artists.
So actually, that is a community kind of day where there's a couple of things that are going on. So we have a community paint along, like painting events. It's just you have a figure model there, and you just go paint and work on painting or even drawing the figure. And that's all that happens, you know, every so often. It's almost weekly. And it's run in Tumon Sands Plaza, next to the gallery, next to Lee Ray's gallery, which is we kind of call it a gallery annex because it's available. So we usually have some community painting days. There are I have offered workshops before. The last one I did was it was supposed to be expressive portraiture, but we kind of changed it up a little bit and made it more like an expressive figure painting. And you know, I've been asked also to kind of to be a regular in terms of teaching at a workshop in one of the schools that are out here. That's, you know, someone can you know, have, they pay for 4 lessons or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that just yet, but But people are asking me to do that. I'm pretty happy here at UOG. So anybody who wants to take any of my classes, I was this semester I was teaching life drawing and I'm teaching watercolor. And then next semester I'll be teaching just a studio for a non-major. So even if you're not an art major and you just want to take a lesson with me, yeah, come on, take my class.
Biba. Oh, Biba. I definitely recommend Studio for Non-Majors.
Yeah.
I was an English major at UOG. I took Studio for Non-Majors with Iparentesmo Rick Castro.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, you should be an art major. And I was like, okay, fine. So added a whole year onto my educational time, but
Nice.
It was worth it getting a degree in art.
Yeah.
And so Jerrold, si Diyos masiput esti, Hugo Fegres esti, champotmanay zani hinasom mo lokwe. I really appreciated your time and also you sharing your thoughts and bonito pinantap mo lokwe, your beautiful paintings as well. And so, before we go, we have one more. We've had some more comments, but I haven't had time to get to them. And so Dana, one of our Fanatsu patrons, says, your work is really inspiring me. As a creative and also as a descendant, a Chamorro descendant, feelings of fracture have filled my life and your work is speaking to those feelings and it's cathartic.
Thank you. So,
Sidus Masi. That's what I love is when art sort of isn't just about art can be pretty, that's cool. But when art can reach us on a deeper level and help us understand something about ourselves or the world around us, that's what I love about art. And so, Sidus Masi Tatlu, Jerrold, thank you so much for joining. And para hamzo todos ni umeega paru me kungok estigi ifin nakpuestin episode Fanatsu. Adios, estaki manatli